answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu explained Israel's goals for the new action.
We want to liberate ourselves and liberate the people of Gaza from the awful terror of Hamas.
The phase plan includes disarming Hamas, returning all hostages, demilitarizing the Gaza Strip, Israeli security control in Gaza, and creating a civilian government that is neither Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority. Netanyahu telling Fox News Israel doesn't want to be in charge of Gaza.
We don't want to be there as a governing body. We want to hand it over to Arab forces that will govern it properly without threatening us and giving Gazans a good life. That's not possible with Hamas.
No, it's not. And Hamas residents, I should say, Palestinians living in that area know with Hamas in control, it has not been a good life. Originally, when Israel turned over the land to the Palestinians, they were running it as a Palestinian nation. But then they elected Hamas to be in control. And Hamas' entire goal is to wipe out Israel. This is a deciding day and factor today involving Israel, Hamas, and our nation here and the world. So the Israeli Security Cabinet voting to approve a plan to reoccupy the Gaza Strip militarily, starting with Gaza City. That is the most populous area still, the last refuge of Hamas. They are still believed to be holding maybe 50 live hostages. And already, of course, folks are saying, you're going to get them killed. You're going to get them killed. What do you think is going to happen to them if nothing is done? What do you think has already happened to those they've been holding previously since that October 7th day? This is a decision that had to be made. Let me point out to you that next week, Speaker Tim Jones and Chris Arps will be in Israel. They'll be doing their report daily from Israel, feeding us special reports as well from time to time. In fact, they're already en route at this point. Wish them well, safe journey, and hopefully there will be no action that would endanger them in the process. But we'll be getting reports from Tim Jones and Chris Arps direct from Israel next week from 4 to 6 every day and other parts of the day as well. So you need to stay listening to News 4 STL. News Talk STL. Did I say News 4? I did. Boy, what a slip of my mind. You can blame it on drinking Jack too early in the morning. No, just went south. I've got several things on the screen I'm watching right now. So let's bring you up to speed. Here we are with Larry Connors USA. I know that. Larry Connors USA, August 8, 2025. And reminding you, when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. How do you do it? You go to NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook, Twitter. Larry Connors USA, Rumble, or Facebook. And everything goes up as a podcast later. So you can always pull it up and listen and watch later through NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, and Larry Connors USA Facebook. And continue, please continue to share with others after you've listened. Just simply push the share button. Send it on to others that you want to get involved in these conversations. And with Larry Connors USA, you're always going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. You will leave each hour with more knowledge than you had as we began. We stacked the show with so much. In fact, a lot of it never gets on the air, but what does get on there will certainly enlighten you. Later in our next hour, we are at 200 days in the Trump administration. We do have a new golden age under Trump at this point, and it's just getting better. We're going to talk about that later in the next hour. And later in this hour, listen to this, please. Microsoft opened a window for the Chinese to get inside our Pentagon. And the Pentagon supposedly did not know it? How the hell did that happen? And what's going on? What's at risk? My guest coming up later this hour will answer those questions. Now back to the issue of dealing with Israel saying it's going to move forward, take over the Gaza Strip, all 26 miles. They're going to chase Hamas out. They're going to destroy them and hopefully rescue the 50 remaining live hostages. They may be able to get all of them, maybe none of them, but the intent is to go forward. Netanyahu told Fox News that this occupation, after it's finished, we will hand it over to Arab leadership, as you were hearing from him a moment ago. They are surrounded in Jerusalem, in Israel, by enemies all around them. That includes Arab nations, and that includes Lebanon, Syria, but they also know they can work with some of them. If you get the Hamas terrorists out, Hezbollah out, Houthi rebels out of the area, and part of that involves we continue to put pressure on Iran to shut down anything going to Iran so they cannot fund it moving forward. But General Jack King assesses the situation this way.
The reality is what we're facing here is Prime Minister Netanyahu and his negotiating team, with ours assisting them, try to work a deal with Hamas to get those hostages out, and they made a number of concessions, and Hamas kept rejecting. So where the Prime Minister is, and it remains to be seen where the cabinet comes out on this, I mean, he's at a point of frustration, and he wants to get those hostages freed, and he believes the best way to get them freed is to put more pressure on Hamas militarily. And that has been what the campaign has been all about. I think we're making too much about we're going to fully occupy all of Gaza. Even if that takes place, it would only be temporary, and he said that himself.
Yeah, he stated that directly. And President Trump said, I am giving the plan a green light because I see the Hamas not at the negotiating table in any good faith. So do what you need to do. Now, our U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, talks about how Netanyahu is now at the threshold of what he's got to do.
Israel does, in fact, run a huge risk by taking the military action that they've planned in order to end Hamas and save hostages. But what choice do they have?
I think with a combination of the right military tactics and international pressure, we can get all of them, and certainly most of them, out.
The plan is meeting with resistance from the United Kingdom. The British ambassador calling it a huge mistake. Some fear the Gaza takeover plan could spark a new wave of anti-Semitism. This Paris office of Israeli airline El Al was vandalized Thursday.
And there will be more of that, not only across Israel, but here in the U.S. Watch for the same thing to happen here. But again, General Jack King said, we have reached this point. What other option is available?
The alternative would be leave Gaza, leave the Hamas in control, leave them armed, and then move all the IDF forces out of Gaza completely, and hopefully be able to get the hostages out as a part of that. The Prime Minister, and I would suspect much of his cabinet, does not agree with that. Because to leave them in control and to leave them under arms invites another attack on Israel, and they have suffered through an unprovoked, significant, barbaric attack which led to this entire war. So that's the dividing point here.
We are at that dividing point. And I want you to take note of this, and I'm incensed even as I read this to you. Germany has decided the German chancellor, says Germany will not authorize exports of any military equipment to Israel that could be used in Gaza until, quote, further notice. That is a striking, quick response by one of Israel's strongest international backers up to this point. And Germany, of all nations, should stand with Israel. The Holocaust brought on by Hitler when he was running Germany. I was just talking to a Jewish friend the other day, and he said, actually, Germans have been better and more receptive and understanding than any other nations. He said it may be guilt, but at least they've been there. But now they're saying we're not going to do anything to send you more military weapons going into Gaza, at least for now. What are they trying to say? Should be ashamed. There is another concern, though, that Bibi says, look, we're not going to run it. We'll get in there, and then we'll turn it over to someone else. And one rabbi, Chaim Menetz, says, I'm not so sure about that plan.
The problem is, if you listen to the last things that he said was, once we clean up everything, we're going to give it over to other people. In 2005, just 20 years ago this week, we gave them the entire Gaza. We trusted the civilians, go vote a government. And we got Hamas. Biggest mistake Israel's ever done.
Yeah, that is true. And they have paid for it. President Trump is getting involved in the New York City mayoral race, and the Democrat candidate is trying to avoid his history.
The president is reportedly weighing a bold move to prevent Zohran Mamdani from becoming New York City's next mayor. According to the New York Times, the president has had a direct phone call with Andrew Cuomo, now running as an independent, about potentially joining forces to stop Mamdani from taking City Hall. Because make no mistake here, folks, this is shaping up to be a national showdown. Capitalism versus socialism. And the far left is right at the gate.
New Yorkers do not want a mayor who is working in tandem with the president to subvert the will of the people of this city. All of it comes back from the understanding that for Donald Trump, the victory that we would deliver for working class New Yorkers is one that threatens the very basis of so much of his politics.
And the same guy you were listening to then, Mamdani, New Yorkers don't want Trump. How many in the LGBTQ community want Mamdani? Many. I mean, he was at the Pride Parade recently. He speaks on behalf of them often. He attended a trans community town hall meeting back in May, speaking with several activists, saying New York City must be a refuge for LGBTQIA plus people, making it a refuge. And a significant portion of that community in New York City is supporting Mamdani, including queer celebrities as they're identifying themselves. These people, they can have whatever sexual preference they want as long as they're adults and they're not preying on children. But they're not paying attention to the facts in front of them, right under their nose. Mamdani just came back from getting married in Uganda. Why did he go to Uganda? His parents own a large estate in Uganda, a palatial estate. That's where he and his wife went to get married. It's surrounded by armed guards, which, by the way, are also wearing masks. I don't hear anybody complaining about them wearing masks like some complain about ICE wearing masks here. But the issue with Uganda and how he's going to try to get around it, and of course, Mamdani has also talked about defunding the police in the past. But when he was at the family compound in Uganda with his celebration, surrounded by armed guards, the facts began to become more evident, and you could shout them from the rooftop, but the LGBTQ plus people are deaf, I guess. Curtis Sliwa, the GOP candidate in the New York City mayoral race, was one of the ones shouting out that, hey, he is a hypocrite. He is calling for defunding the police, but everyone in New York at the same time looks at him getting all this security he had at his wedding. And then when he got back to New York, remember we had an off-duty police officer shot to death in that Midtown Manhattan shooting? Mamdani thought it would be a good gesture, pandering, to get a bouquet of flowers to take to the widow of that police officer. But there's another issue. Mamdani, coming from Uganda, is coming from a nation that will not tolerate homosexuality. They put them to death. Mamdani is coming from a nation that just last year updated a long list of government sanctions against LGBTQ plus whatever individuals. So the guy that was running in New York City and standing in the Pride Parade, and talking to all the queer people and saying, I'm with you, we're all together, yay, yay, yay. His own country, if they went there, they would be executed. Because when they updated their constitutional court, they upheld an anti-gay law that allows the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality. When is someone on the left going to ask him about that? How do you square that? How can you answer it? They won't have an answer. They'll just smile and say, well, I'm better than the other guys. But why don't you take a plane load of the LGBTQ activists to Uganda to visit the family home? See how that goes over. All right, we have a lot to cover over the next rest of our 2 hours here. And in one thing, this is concerning. Microsoft gave China access to the Pentagon, and supposedly Pentagon leaders did not know it. At least that's what they're claiming. What access? What happened? My guest will explain. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it, and we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. The Oak Street Inn and Lounge has some great news. The Speakeasy will now be open on Sundays, starting at 2. Open to the public. Great for those in the industry who'll want to enjoy a Sunday fun day. Plus, enjoy sushi and cocktails. What more could you want? You want to make sure you get the code. And how do you get the code to the Speakeasy? You go to the Facebook, Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. I'll see you at Oak Street Inn and Lounge in Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
And where down we go, 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 go. Oh, where down we go, 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 go. So where down we go, 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 go. Way down we go.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
So let me put it to you this way, as I was telling you before we went to the break. Microsoft basically devised a scheme, a system, using Chinese engineers to maintain Pentagon non-classified systems. Now, if you've got access to non-classified, you're just a step away from classified. How in the hell did that happen? My guest is going to break it down for us. Paul Steidler, senior fellow at the Lexington Institute. And you're calling for a congressional hearing, and I agree. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, it's great to be back with you again, Larry, and your listeners. The short answer is we don't know how it happened, and that's why it's critically important for Congress to investigate this, to send out subpoenas, to bring Microsoft executives before Congress for depositions and things along those lines. Also, this went on for a decade, and when we're talking, and just
I'm sorry, did you say 10 years it's been going on?
10 years. Yes, it started back in 2015. This went on for a decade. We need to understand the scope of information that China was able to gather here, and keep in mind when we're talking about Chinese engineers, we're not talking about Chinese citizens here in the United States.
No.
We're talking about who were in China itself, who were doing the work on these programs. And when you live in China, by law, you have to cooperate with the Chinese Communist government on whatever they ask you to do. So if the Chinese government comes in and asks these engineers, what did you see? What did you input? What are you working on this week? You, by law, have to do that. You don't have a choice. And this is just an amazingly stupid program to initiate in the first place.
I call it treason. I call it treasonous. I'm going to be direct about it. I want to read to the audience something you wrote and share your words in one of your analysis. It is one thing for China to hack in to sensitive U.S. files. However, when a powerful U.S. company practically invites him to do so, gaining access to crucial information from the Department of Defense, Congress should use all its investigative powers to determine what went wrong and why. And I would add, who did it?
Right. No, there have to be names here. There have to be names at Microsoft of people who were involved in this. There also has to be a thorough audit of the Pentagon to figure out what with its processes went wrong here. Now, I will say to Secretary of Defense's Hegseth's great credit, he ended this program almost upon immediately finding out about it from Senator Cotton and some published reports that came out on it. And that's very important. That's very significant. But there needs to be a deep audit on what the effects of this were. And frankly, there has to be a search to see if there are other programs going on with vendors. be it tech folks or whatnot. So this is a big story that's hasn't gotten the attention that I think it deserves. And
I agree.
I commend you for bringing this out there. But this is an important matter. This is the Chinese getting their hands on a lot of very important Defense Department stuff.
Oh, but Paul, they weren't going to do that. It's like you're going to leave your window open so the burglar can come in and you can say you can take the salt shaker. But then they take every jewelry and everything else they find on the way out. If they get even access to get close to anything else, they're going to grab it.
Exactly. And the scope of this, again, for the 10-year period is, it's one thing to mess up, for one night and leave your window open. It's another thing to do it for 10 years, especially when you're in a high crime neighborhood. And we know when we're dealing with China that there's enormous amounts of crime and theft that they are undertaking against us. This just has to change.
You made a good point. I mean, in a bad neighborhood. I mean, it's not like China just in the last year has suddenly become our enemy. I mean, it's been well beyond the past 10 years.
Right. And it's going to continue to be going forward. I mean, they're not going to magically change their approach. I mean, stealing intellectual property and stealing U.S. commercial and military secrets is in their DNA, and it's just going to get worse and worse. There have been a number of other Microsoft incidents where the company was supposed to be protecting data, and it didn't work out. Now, some of that might be inevitable, but there's been a big history of this, or a big long track record of this. Including going back to the Cyber Safety Review Board, releasing a stinging report about them in April 2024, saying that a major program by which China accessed official email accounts of many of the most senior government officials managing our country's relationship with the People's Republic of China, that was a preventable attack. And that was a devastating attack. You had senior level State Department and Commerce Department people's emails who got into the hands of the Chinese government at a time we're having sensitive negotiations.
And Microsoft at that point, supposedly, at least one division of Microsoft, was actively trying to prevent that from happening, and they couldn't.
Right. And they not only couldn't, but they couldn't do it in a major way. So, it's one thing for penetration to happen. It's another for a full-fledged, massive opening penetration to happen.
To that extent, what do we know that they actually have taken already that supposedly they were going to be allowed to touch but go no farther? What do we know about this Trojan horse we let in? What kind of forensics do we have to show what they have taken?
Well, that is not in the public domain. I don't even know that the Pentagon knows it at this point. But that's why it's important to move on this quickly. It's important to have Congress make sure that records are preserved here by Microsoft and by others, and that there be a forensic audit of this information, because and this is stuff that takes time to do. It takes it's a multi-year, a 10-year period of stuff that China was able to access here, and we don't know the scope of that, at least not publicly here. Yeah. And some of that's going to have to be gathered, but I also think it's important for Congress and the Pentagon to err on the side of being transparent and sharing that information, and hopefully getting people a little riled up about this and underscoring the need for absolute impeccable standards in protecting our data and preventing cyber attacks from the godless communist Chinese government, which is bent on, if not destroying us, destroying our way of life and the freedoms and values that we hold most dear.
There's another point. You're listening to Paul Steidler, senior fellow at the Lexington Institute. But the other point is, so we get everybody in Congress on board. Oh, yeah, this is wrong. We should shut it down. Certainly under the Trump administration, Hegseth has, we're going to do it. But a change of administrations, a change of a few congressmen down the road could reopen it all or just say, it's not that big of a deal, walk away from it.
Yeah, and you know, one thing that Congress can do legislatively to prevent that, and I would think, you know, this is one of those things that should pass by a 90-10 margin, is just make a law that on no sensitive military projects can people in communist China work on them, period.
Yeah.
Senator Cotton has called for some similar legislation, making, in fact, it's broader than that, saying that no non-U.S. citizens can work on sensitive DoD computer work.
That makes common sense.
Yeah, that makes common sense. That should go forward.
And that's assuming they don't turn them into a spy for them, because they're very good at doing that.
Yeah, but there's no reason not to do that. And the U.S. certainly has the skilled folks to do that, and we need to encourage more people to take on those skills. You know, we're in the age of AI. We're in the age of great opportunity for those in the technology professions, and there is absolutely no reason why we should have people in China or Cuba or Belgium or anywhere else work on, do this work, which is American work that should be done by Americans.
Paul, in the last 20 seconds, we're talking all of this has to do with Microsoft. Have other companies done it?
Actually, my understanding is that on the DoD cloud work that is done, and Microsoft is the big provider of that to the DoD, but also Amazon, Google, and Oracle provide some work there, and that they are not involved in, that they do not do these practices.
All right.
But Microsoft is the big kahuna, so that's just perfect.
We're going to stay on top of it. Paul Steidler, senior fellow. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you again, Larry. Great to be with you.
You bet. Coming up, are we arresting the best of the best or the worst of the worst?
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I can tell you how to get a free quick quiz to see how artificial intelligence can boost your company's potential. You go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. St. Louis Business Magazine listing PRI as one of the leading IT companies, and PRI has its own AI lab to develop what your business needs. priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. Hey, looking for windows that solve your problems and actually add value to your home? Renewal by Andersen. Andersen products increase your home value by at least 15%. Right now, get $329 off every window, $729 off every patio or entry door, and ask about our zero interest plan for 3 years. Renewal by Andersen, the full-service replacement division of Andersen. That's a name you've trusted for more than 122 years. Renewal by Andersen has FiberX frames, 20% stronger than vinyl, built to last. It's why we have more 5-star reviews than anyone in St. Louis. And only Renewal by Andersen backs it up with the nation's best warranty. Schedule your complimentary consultation, rbastl.com or call 877-WINDOWS. 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service. Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. It means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Oh, Susie Q. Oh, Susie Q. Oh, Susie Q. Baby, I love you. Susie Q. Like the way you walk. I like the way.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
70% of everybody we arrest is a criminal. The other 30%, national security threats, final orders, and people had due process of great taxpayer expense or order removed by judge. By law, we got to remove them. So the numbers are great, right? But now the left is saying they're not criminal enough. I saw a story the other day. Only 1% of deportees are murderers. Really? That is a new level. And another story says, well, a lot of them are DUIs. DUI is a public safety threat, where 10,000 people a year die from DUI. So now the story is the 70% criminals aren't criminal enough. We removed a record number of public safety threats and national security threats under the Trump administration. He's keeping his promise to American people. We're making this country safer every day.
That is Tom Homan, our border czar. So now the cry from the left, those who want to keep the illegals in the country, but they're not willing to go to a judge and sign a statement that I will keep them in my house. I'll be responsible for any of their actions going forward. They will not do that, but they want them to be in your neighborhood and in your backyard and a threat to you and your children. But now you guys have been arresting people who are not criminal enough. Look, we have various criminal statutes in our law, everything from various minor to felony, and different degrees in each of those. So you're caught shoplifting in a store where they're actually going to prosecute a shoplifter. That's a criminal action. Does that equate to someone walking down the street and shooting someone walking down the street? No, there's a difference. But they're both criminal actions. And so now we got the left saying, well, you guys are arresting people who are not criminal enough. Are you listening to you? Do you listen to yourself? And DUI not being criminal enough? How many have died because of illegals in this country that have been driving drunk? Not criminal enough. Where would they sit around at? What do they smoke in that room and come up with an idea like that? We would just say they're not criminal enough. Homan said 70% we arrest have criminal records. But they're not a bad criminal. Well, then why don't you invite them to your home to live with you? And then we got this issue. And Senator Richard Blumenthal, all the way up in Connecticut, is complaining about what happened in Los Angeles with ICE agents and illegals. Why is he doing that? Well, because he's looking for a grandstand. He says the ICE operations are using a Trojan horse to catch illegals. Now, what happened? At least 16 illegals were surprised as ICE agents were suddenly on top of them. Where did they come from? Well, they came from the back end of a Penske truck that had been rented by ICE, and it was filled with ICE agents. So they could drive right up to the park, no flashing lights or anything, open the door, and the ICE agents came running out and grabbing the illegals. And Blumenthal wants to say, It is a Trojan horse operation. It might involve entrapment. They didn't entrap anybody. They didn't invite them, hey, come into the truck and we'll ride around and get an ice cream. No, they didn't. They came out of the truck to get them. But he says it's a violation of the Constitution. No, it's not. Not as it was carried out. It is not. They didn't entice them to come to the park and then be there when the Penske truck showed up. Mayor Bass, of course, is complaining about it. They're all saying here's a government agency luring people who are seeking work with a Penske truck, a straw hat on the dashboard. There was a giveaway. You put a straw hat, I guess that's meant to say Mexican labor, manual labor. You put a straw hat on the dashboard. The Penske company says, we did not know our truck was being used in that way. When you lease a truck, do they ask you, are you going to be using this to grab illegals? Are you going to be using this to transport drugs, stolen property? No, they just want to get the lease. They want to get the money out. So the truck pulls up at the park. And all the illegals see it, but they don't go scattering and running. And they were not entrapping. They did not have a sign saying, come here to sign up for a job. If they did, many of them might not even do it anyway. But they want to claim that this now is an operation that was a Trojan horse using a rental truck to basically, surprise, if they were not in the country illegally, they wouldn't need to worry, would they? Now, of the 16 they arrested, I have not seen the list of what crimes they might have been involved in other than the fact they were in their country illegally, but that's a pretty big damn crime to me. And it is to every American, and especially to those who came to the country legally, and others wanting to come to our country legally. We do know that the way they were processed, they had some from Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. What if they had straw hats? The straw hat might have been, maybe that was the enticement. Was that it? This is like a sting operation anyway, and it even falls short of that. You know, sting operations where people will be called up and said, hey, you won a lottery, somebody registered your name, and you got a free TV. Come to this address, you can pick it up. And they show up to pick up their free TV. Surprise! Police come out from behind with handcuffs. You're under arrest for aggravated assault or whatever. Now, you could call that entrapment if you want, but it's a way to get them in peacefully. But in this case, they didn't lure them to the truck, didn't lure them into the park. They were already there. And there's another issue. We have a lot of illegals currently in our nation driving transport trucks, and they cannot speak a word of English. And that is a big issue.
How important is it for truck drivers to speak English in this country?
Listen, it's wildly important because this has been on the American books for decades. Because if you're pulled over or if you have a crash and you can't communicate with law enforcement or with first responders, it's a truly safety issue. Barack Obama, what he did is he took the teeth out of this rule of English only. We brought those teeth back to the pre-Obama era to go, we're going to put you out of service. We've taken 1,500 trucks out of service off the roads because the drivers couldn't speak English. And I think that's what the American people expect from us. English is the language of the United States of America. Right. And if you're going to get in a mobile missile, you should speak our language.
Yeah. And in fact, if I were going to move to France and live in France, I would want to learn French. Might have a Texas accent with it, but I'd at least try to learn so I can read it, write it, and understand and converse. That's not for safety issue even. It's just a matter of assimilating, being part of the culture, and being able to get around without asking a translator, what did they say? But if you got illegals, and they said, that is Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy saying, we just took 1,500 trucks off the road, driven by illegals who could not speak English. Maybe they couldn't read either. They couldn't read detour, or they may have seen the sign that they follow the arrow. But if the sign posted bridge is out, and they go right on past it because they can't read it, and yet the left is still going to find a way to say, well, it's acceptable. It is not acceptable. And the crime inside D.C. is no longer acceptable to President Trump, nor should it be at any point. Here's what President Trump is doing. He's ordering federal law enforcement officers, along with the U.S. Park Police, and including officers and agents from the FBI, DEA, ATF, ICE, and other agencies. Over the next 7 days, they're going to crack down on violent crime in D.C. That's outstanding. The order issued to make D.C. safe. The federal presence will be in marked units, not in a Penske rental truck. President Trump said D.C. is an amazing city, but has been plagued by violent crime for far too long. And that's a fact. And one of the young interns working on the Doge project tried to rescue someone being attacked the other day, and he suffered because of that. So as mentioned today marks 200 days of the current Trump presidency. Any major complaints? I can hear the left wailing and crying. Let me ask this. Any praise? Oh, yeah, I do. I hear that. I'm even hearing some praise from leftists. That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors, USA. Larry Connors, USA.
Obviously, the phrase is America's back. It's as though the country had been in a coma, that there was an abandonment, if you will, not just of our own nation, but of the world itself in the last administration. And President Trump was reelected because we already knew what he could do in the first term that he had. And he is a representation, a physical representation of the nature of America itself. America is back because Donald Trump is back. And his view of this country, yes, it's patriotic, but he loves us. He loves the people of the country. He loves what the nation stands for, but he also understands its power.
Yes, he does understand its power, and he's using it. You were listening to State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce as she appeared on Newsmax, talking about how much Trump has accomplished in 200 days. Again, Biden made a lot of things happen in 200 days, none of them any good. And, of course, opening up the border, killing the Keystone Pipeline. We still need to get that up and running. And also just basically letting the leftists run rampant. No more police needed. Defund what you got. More money for the immigrants, the illegals, not our nation, not Americans. Everything Trump has done is going to improve the situation for everyone. It will truly be a tide that lifts all boats. I don't want anyone left behind. I want everyone to benefit. But the attitude of most on the left is there's nothing he's doing that's helping me. You know what? If he's getting things done with tariffs and everything, you might pay a little bit more for a few days, but then it's going to get better. If he's holding nations at bay that want to come in and kill, if he's holding off more illegals from coming in, he is protecting you. But, of course, they don't see it that way. Peter Navarro said, the difference this time around from previously is Trump has a lot of wind behind him.
The Trump trade policy is being welcomed now and acknowledged as working beautifully. The headwinds we faced in the first term from just about everybody, including a lot of people inside the West Wing and White House and administration, this is night and day. Everybody working for the president is pulling an oar in the right direction. And 180, I'm a little disappointed, boss. I thought we could hit one a day. We hit 184, so, you know, we missed the mark by 16. But the man is absolutely amazing, and he is the greatest president in modern history. And he was so ending the first term, but now it's just going to be amazing.
And he certainly should be getting the Nobel Peace Prize. What did Obama do to get the Nobel Peace Prize? Nothing. He got nothing really accomplished other than becoming the president. That was it. Trump has done so much more, dealing not only here but across the world. You want to laugh? I've got a great quote coming up from the governor of New York. And I got more. What have you learned this hour? You're going to learn more the next hour. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. You and I might have something in common, back pain. I can tell you where I go for help. Esquire Sports Medicine, the spine of St. Louis. They can put athletes back on the field so they can clearly help us. Esquire Sports Medicine, hands-on chiropractic help on Big Bend, just north of Highway 40. 314-644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as Support Dogs for Our Brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. Question: are you looking to unlock the full potential of artificial intelligence for your business? I want you to meet my friends at PRI Global, named by the St. Louis Business Journal as a leading IT consulting firm. 25 years helping local and worldwide companies. PRI Global has a free survey to determine where your company stands in your AI journey. You simply go to priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai. And I also have a phone number, so get ready to copy that number. And I'll remind you that PRI Global has its own AI lab, creating, adapting, developing, pushing the boundaries for what AI can do for you. Here's the number, 636-689-0545. 636-689-0545. Or visit priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai.
This is News Talk STL.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
The Russia collusion hoax against President Trump remains the single greatest hoax and the greatest assault on our democracy in the history of this country. There's no comparison, there's no parallel to anything else. It was a coup. And I'm using that term literally. It was a coup to overthrow a democratically elected government, a coup carried out by the intelligence apparatus of this country, by the deep state, by Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party. The new information that has been revealed by the Director of National Intelligence and by the FBI eliminates any scintilla of doubt about the intention, the premeditation, the planning and orchestration of this conspiracy. It meets all of the criminal elements of a seditious conspiracy against the United States. It meets the criminal elements of an insurrection. It meets the criminal elements of a conspiracy against the government and the criminal elements of a conspiracy to deprive citizens of their civil rights under color of law.
White House spokesman Stephen Miller pointing out that everything that we've been uncovering and we've been making public through the Mueller files and the annex to it, all of these things being made public by the DOJ, proves exactly what many of us suspected. They were trying to railroad Trump from the beginning, trying to get him out of the race, and then they were sure he was not going to win, and then they got fearful maybe he would win. So Hillary and her team put together opposition research fabrication that Trump was linked to the Russians, started pushing that story around. And he ends up winning. Now what do we do? Well, we got to push the Russian hoax even harder, to the extent that in December, a month after Trump's been elected, a month before he's to be inaugurated, Obama calls the head of the FBI, CIA, the Department of Justice, and others in, and says this presidential daily briefing does not include some things in here I think should be there, suggesting you got to put that Russian collusion thing back in here. So they were going to try to destroy Trump as he took office. That is a coup. If you overthrow a government by whatever force or effort or anything you do, that is a coup. Bloodless, but still, it amounts to taking the power away from the people. Welcome to hour number 2, Larry Connors USA, August 8, 2025. And reminding you, when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. Very easy to do. Just go to NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook or Twitter, Larry Connors USA, Rumble, or Facebook. And everything goes up as a podcast later at LarryConnorsUSA.com, at NewsTalkSTL podcast, and at Larry Connors USA Facebook. So you can always pull it up and listen and watch at that point. And with Larry Connors USA, you're always going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. You will know more when we finish this hour than you did as we began. That's why I ask at the end of each program, what did you learn new this time? And don't sit there and tell me you didn't learn something. Come on. I learned Larry's an idiot. Hey. Go back to your corner. I can be a spear catcher. Go ahead. I've had all that stuff thrown at me at the past. Doesn't faze me one bit. But what Trump has accomplished in just his first 200 days is really important and has done a lot. And what we have with all of these things being laid out, a lot of these guys that are caught in the crosshairs are just checking the calendar because there's got to be a statute of limitations I can be protected by. Well, not if it's considered to be an ongoing crime, that it continues. Stephen Miller, White House.
Several of the statutes I mentioned, we have not even come close to eclipsing the statute of limitations. But more than that, it is an ongoing and continuing conspiracy. It continued through the entirety of President Trump's first term. It continued through the entirety of President Biden's term in office. And it continues to this day. There are still deep state coup plotters who are trying to conceal and hide this information on behalf of the people they are protecting. There are still staffers in Democrat offices who know the full truth, who are concealing that truth. So all of this behavior, all of this conduct collectively means the conspiracy hasn't ended, is ongoing. Comey in particular has throughout the years engaged in conduct and lies, public statements, and testimony in front of Congress. False testimony whose sole purpose was to perpetuate and continue the conspiracy.
And even though he's not in position, everything he's done continues. They actually thought that, okay, if they do catch us, if we can hide out long enough and stretch it out enough, statute of limitations will protect us. You cannot get me on perjury because I've testified before Congress more than 5 years ago. Yeah, but what you said then, and of course, then what you stupidly put into a New York Post, the New York Times editorial, just re-triggered all of that. Reset the calendar, and your conspiracy efforts continue. Speaking of conspiracy efforts, by the way, I don't know where I'm going to put this. I guess I'll hold it off for the next hour. The next segment. But there's one thing I do want to put in front of you now. Congresswoman Yahya Paul, Democrat, Washington State, said that the Trump administration has been showing corruption and is showing corruption on every level. I'm reading through what else she had to say, and I see nothing that shows corruption. I get her point that she's trying to say we've got to make sure the wealthiest are paying their fair share. That's a fallback argument every time. Should they got to tell people, we're trying to help you. We're going to get you a decent wage, good health care. That has nothing to do with corruption. It could be inefficiency, inadequate, things of that nature, but corruption can't just be thrown over all of that. Yahya Paul thinks it is. And then she adds, so all of it's just corruption, and I think people are sick and tired of corruption. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And we've got our targets in sight. We're going to get into that, as I said, more in the second part here. But one of the targets in sight is already going to be facing some questioning and going to have to maybe face, I would like to say, jail time. The Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, moving forward on a criminal investigation against New York Attorney General Letita James.
Some breaking news sources are telling us that New York Attorney General Letita James and her office are under investigation by the Department of Justice in relation to her case against President Trump. Justice correspondent David Spunt is in Washington. What do you know, David?
Well, hi, Dana. Two well-placed sources familiar with the probe tell Fox News that New York Attorney General Letita James and her office is under investigation by the DOJ here in Washington. We're told that Attorney General Pam Bondi signed off on the probe. Subpoenas were sent to James's office, and there is a grand jury investigation underway in the New York State capital of Albany. The specific investigation, my colleague Jake Gibson, Ashley Oliver, and myself are being told involves deprivation of rights, which in plain language means someone in a position of legal authority violating someone else's constitutional or legal rights. Those sources tell Fox News the DOJ is going after James because she took then former President Donald Trump to court, quote, simply because she didn't like him and campaigned on getting him.
Yeah, she did. So, Paul, what do you think about that kind of corruption? Crickets? So the DOJ is at this point moving forward with a full investigation. And this is also following, by the way, I should remind you, Letita James also under FBI investigation for alleged mortgage fraud. But she did campaign for the office she now has on the fact that she was going to go after Trump. She said, I'm going to win. And then she told a group of New York Democrats, quote, I look forward to going into the office of the Attorney General every day, suing Trump, then going home. Didn't say based on facts, just I'm going to do it every day. Using her position to go after a civilian, and in this case, also a president. Israel is ready to take all of Gaza right now, not to hold it, but destroy all elements of Hamas. Retired General Jack Keane lays out a fact regarding Netanyahu and Hamas.
The Prime Minister believes, one, he wants to make certain that they're no longer in control. Two, that they disarm. Number three, that the hostages are indeed released. And number four, someone else is governing Gaza. And then there's a recovery effort. And let's face it, if Hamas stays in control, those who would say just make a deal, get the hostages out, leave Hamas in control, and leave them under arms, who is going to give Hamas money to recover Gaza? Certainly the Arabs wouldn't do that. They're throwing it down the drain. They know that. You've got to get a new governing body in there to be able to recover Gaza. We knew it would come down to this at the very beginning, Bill. The reason why Hamas took the hostages, even on a scale of 250, was one, for their own survival, pause in the war so they could recover and rebuild. We've already seen the evidence of that, almost a year and a half plus. And two, at the end of the day, keep enough hostages to guarantee their own survival. That is where we are at. And we knew this would be a crunch point.
Yeah, and we're at that point. And yes, out of 50 hostages they still have, 20 to 30 might be alive. If it were your son or daughter, I know you'd want them out safely. But you're not going to get them the way things are going anyway. Mike Huckabee, our ambassador to Israel.
Israel does, in fact, run a huge risk by taking the military action that they've planned in order to end Hamas and save hostages. But what choice do they have?
I think with a combination of the right military tactics and international pressure, we can get all of them, and certainly most of them, out.
The plan is meeting with resistance from the United Kingdom. The British ambassador calling it a huge mistake. Some fear the Gaza takeover plan could spark a new wave of anti-Semitism. This Paris office of Israeli airline El Al was vandalized Thursday.
And we will expect more of that to happen all across Israel, all across the U.S. in many cases, because they're going to try to make that point made here, that they hate the Jews. You can forget the phrase anti-Semitic. They hate Jews. It's as simple as that. And they would continue to hold these hostages as long as they can. They've been doing it. And we know whatever food gets in to help the people under the control of Hamas right now, the civilians, they might get some of it. They may have to find a way to pay for it. Hamas members, they're fat and healthy. But very little, if any, food is going to those hostages. General Jack King, as he said, we are at this crunch point. We all knew we were going to get here at some point.
Reality is what we're facing here is Prime Minister Netanyahu and his negotiating team, with ours assisting them, try to work a deal with Hamas to get those hostages out, and they made a number of concessions, and Hamas kept rejecting. So where the Prime Minister is, and it remains to be seen where the cabinet comes out on this, I mean, he's at a point of frustration. And he wants to get those hostages freed, and he believes the best way to get them freed is to put more pressure on Hamas militarily. And that has been what the campaign has been all about. I think we're making too much about we're going to fully occupy all of Gaza. Even if that takes place, it would only be temporary, and he said that himself.
Yeah, in fact, that's basically part of a 5-point plan. Disarm Hamas, return all the hostages, the living and dead, demilitarize the Gaza Strip, Israeli control in the Gaza Strip for a period of time, and eventually the establishment of an alternative civil administration that is not Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority, and not Israel. Arab states might want to come in. And, quite honestly, if Arab states are smart, they would want to get that land. 26 miles, a lot of it along the coastline of the Mediterranean. Why would you not want it? Look what you could do. You could turn it into a great tourist attraction if you get all the killers out of the area. I pointed this out earlier, and I'm going to do it again because I'm just distressed to no end. The German chancellor has decided Germany will not authorize any exports of military equipment to Israel that might be used in Gaza, quote, until further notice. Not clear what he means by that, but pausing these military supplies. We've already had other European countries push against Israel, economically, diplomatic. And even the German chancellor admits Israel has a right to defend itself against Hamas terrorists. But he said, we don't want to have a role in you taking the control of Gaza. They don't want to control Gaza. They're not listening. Not listening. So we have the Department of Homeland Security and ICE not deporting really bad guys, only nice guys, really? That's their claim they're trying to make now. Don't buy it. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is Silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. And John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. I've got a great evening planned for you. We start with dining at the Oak Street Inn Lounge in Cottleville. We enjoy sunset on the rooftop, then down to the Speakeasy. Just one visit, you're going to see why I'm always talking about the Oak Street Inn and Lounge. Plus, you might want to plan a staycation, a romantic getaway. Check out OakStreetInnandLounge.com for various events this summer. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville.
This is NewsTalkSTL.
I guess I grew up on an older road. A pedal to the metal, always did what I was told. Until I found out that my brand new clothes came secondhand from the rich kids next door. And I grew up fast, I guess I grew up mean. There's 1,000 things inside my head I wish I ain't seen. And now I just wander through a real bad dream, or feeling like I'm coming apart at the seams. But thank you, Jack Daniels, oh, number 7. Tennessee whiskey got me drinking in heaven. And
this is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
70% of everybody we arrest is a criminal. The other 30%, national security threats, final orders, and people had due process of great taxpayer expenditure order removed by judge, by law, we got to remove them. So the numbers are great, right? But now the left is saying they're not criminal enough. I saw a story the other day. Only 1% of deportees are murderers. Really? That is a new level. And another story says, well, a lot of them are DUIs. DUI is a public safety threat, where 10,000 people a year die from DUI. So now the story is the 70% criminals aren't criminal enough. We removed a record number of public safety threats and national security threats under the Trump administration. He's keeping his promise to American people. We're making this country safer every day.
That is our border czar, Tom Homan. Yeah, but only 1% of those you are deporting have been convicted of murder. I guess they're convicted of rape. They should be allowed to stay, don't you think? In fact, they should be allowed to work at a daycare center. Why not? The left has gotten so far off base, they cannot find their way back home. And the leadership around them is non-existent. And ones that are there are whacked out. You got Mondani in New York, going to lead the Democrat Party in the mayoral election coming up. And he is from Uganda. His family lives there. And they in Uganda hate to the point of death anyone who is LGBTQ plus whatever. And yet there was Mondani the other day, right there in the front of the Pride Parade, and talking to the pride and queer people, saying, we're going to make New York safe for you. Note he said New York, not Uganda. Because if you come to my home country, we will kill you. I had to wonder, does he say that with that big, flashy smile, then get back in the truck with his colleagues and say, basically, I'd just spit on them if I could, but it might be captured on video, so I won't. He does not care about them. He cares only about himself, and he's putting every freebie in front of them that he can. That's why he's getting so much support. I mentioned in the preceding segment, Congresswoman Yahya Paul of Washington State is saying, we have a strong opposition party that is always cheating. We have to get rid of Trump and the cheaters. They are corrupt. Everything they do is corrupt. How dare she say that? She's entitled to say it, but what does she have to back it up? Nothing. Not a thing. But it's going to be their cry to try to get rid of Trump. But they cannot even get themselves together on the same page. And that's fine by me. I want what's best for the nation, and if they were in charge of the nation, it would not be. And, of course, we have these redistricting efforts underway in Texas and elsewhere under consideration because the states have been gerrymandered, or would be, in such a way that each state would get another representative in Congress. 435 members in our House of Representatives. And how much each state gets depends upon their population. Now, you got to divide the state up. There's about 780,000 for each district. But if you draw it in such a way that it is perfectly looking like a square, except there's 1 mile that goes straight north, 300 yards wide, and it pulls in more Democrats, that's gerrymandering. And so in Texas, the Democrats ran out of the state. And the governor says, we're going to get the FBI to help us find and locate them and bring them back. Hochul is saying Republicans attempting a legal insurrection with redistricting. She said history will judge us how we respond at this moment. Because if we allow the Republicans to get away with it, what they're attempting to do, the legal insurrection of our U.S. Capitol, then we'll have a generation of redistricted, gerrymandered seats skewed against Democrats. The Democrats are the ones who wanted all the illegals in the nation so they could be counted for the census. They're not supposed to be allowed to vote, but they are counted for the census. Trump wants a new census, not including illegals, and that's going to shake up a lot of the areas. That's why they're actively trying to do what they can to hold on to what they've got. And James Carville has come up with one of the most stupid responses I've heard at all. What we need to do, we need to add 2 more states to our nation. That's the way we'll get control again, not only of the nation, but the Supreme Court. Yeah, Carville is pushing that. He said, we're going to have to unilaterally add Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia as states. Then they will each get a member in Congress. And also give us more opportunity of control. And he does want to expand the Supreme Court. Pardon me. Now, the argument for D.C. statehood has been a pressing conversation for some time. It has a delegate for the district, but she can only vote in committees. She cannot participate in floor votes, and the same applies to the Puerto Rican commissioner. Excuse me. And then you get something like this. because redistricting is the thing that gets you a lot of headlines, right? The Massachusetts governor is the latest to threaten retaliatory redistricting. If they're going to do it, we're going to do it, which is really kind of stupid because there are 0 Republicans in Massachusetts, literally. They have no Republican is represented in the House of Congress from Massachusetts. I told you the other day, one of our station owners, Joe, put together a very quick reference, and I love it, on the number of House of Representatives and from each state. I just was talking then about Massachusetts. You go down and look at it, 100% of Democrats. They get 9 seats. They are all Democrat. Let's go back up to the top of the alphabet. Connecticut, 100% Democrat representatives, and they get 5 seats. Now, there are Republicans living there, but not enough to carry the vote to get the representative in place. Delaware, 100% Democrat. Hawaii, yes. They only have 2 delegates based on their population, but it's 100% Democrat. Oh, I'm not done. Let me turn the page for you. New Hampshire, 100% delegates, even though they only get 2 congressional representatives. If you're going to gerrymander or redo the district there, you got nothing but 100% Democrats. New Mexico gets 3 members of the House, 100% Democrats. Rhode Island, same, with getting 2 congressional Democrats. Vermont gets only 1, but guess what? Again, 100%. So the idiocy of the Massachusetts governor, in reference to the other states I just read you, she's going to redistrict? For what purpose? You're not going to get any more than what you've got right now from your congressional delegate, because you currently have, make sure I get the number again, I don't want to misstate it, they currently have 9. You're not going to get more than 9 unless you add more population. And if they bring in illegals, that's how they will do it. Each congressional district has about 580,000 citizens. Citizens, not illegals. And Carville's saying, well, we need to add D.C. and Puerto Rico. They each would get 1 Democrat, one representative in the House of Congress. But that would be better than we could have more opportunity to expand the court and everything else we want to do. The Kool-Aid these folks are drinking from is toxic as hell. I don't want anyone to die, but if we don't stop them, they will make us die. They always want to look for the easy way out. And that means ignoring the rules, bending them, breaking them. We're going to go back to the New York City mayoral race when we continue.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I've got a phone number for you and a website where you can take a free, quick survey to learn how to use artificial intelligence, AI, to put your company on a fast track to the future. Here's the number. It's a 636 area code, 636-689-0545. 689-0545. This is PRI Global. And recently, the St. Louis Business Journal named PRI Global as a leading IT consulting company. 25 years working with hundreds of companies, several Fortune 500, locally and around the world. PRI Global has its own AI lab to develop what's best for your company. Take the free survey and be on your way to the future. 636 689-0545, 689-0545, or go direct, priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. Hey, looking for windows that solve your problems and actually add value to your home? Renewal by Andersen. Andersen products increase your home value by at least 15%. Right now, get $329 off every window, $729 off every patio or entry door, and ask about our zero interest plan for 3 years. Renewal by Andersen, the full-service replacement division of Andersen. That's a name you've trusted for more than 122 years. Renewal by Andersen has FiberX frames, 20% stronger than vinyl, built to last. It's why we have more 5-star reviews than anyone in St. Louis. And only Renewal by Andersen backs it up with the nation's best warranty. Schedule your complimentary consultation, rbastl.com, or call 877-WINDOWS, 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Andersen, superior products, exceptional service. You've worked hard for your money, so protect it. Meet my friend Bob Leslie and ask about the Gain and Retain Plan. Leslie Consulting, 40 years in the St. Louis area as a leader in brokerage and risk management. Call 314-721-0066, 721-0066. Oh, and ask Bob how he was the L.A. Dodger #1 pick. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is NewsTalk STL.
I was born in the rain on a Ponce train underneath the Louisiana moon. I don't mind the strain of a hurricane. They come around every June. The high black water, a devil's daughter. She's hot, she's cold, and she's mean. But nobody taught her it takes a lot of water to wash away New Orleans.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
The president is reportedly weighing a bold move to prevent Zohran Mamdani from becoming New York City's next mayor. According to the New York Times, the president has had a direct phone call with Andrew Cuomo, now running as an independent, about potentially joining forces to stop Mamdani from taking City Hall. Because make no mistake here, folks, this is shaping up to be a national showdown. Capitalism versus socialism, and the far left is right at the gate.
New Yorkers do not want a mayor who is working in tandem with the president to subvert the will of the people of this city. All of it comes back from the understanding that for Donald Trump, the victory that we would deliver for working class New Yorkers is one that threatens the very basis of so much of his politics.
That is Mamdani talking to his supporters, saying you don't want to have Cuomo as as mayor. He'd be working with Trump. Now, that is an interesting alignment. And politics does make strange bedfellows from time to time. It's not that Trump is cozying up to Cuomo, but basically he realizes for the safety of New York citizens and the state viability, you cannot have a guy, a socialist, Marxist, communist like Mamdani running your city. And right now, he's likely to do so. The current mayor, Eric Adams, is still in the running as an independent. Mamdani swept the primaries. That's why he's leading. Cuomo got swiped out of it, so he's got to run as an independent. The only other answer is Curtis Sliwa, representing the Republican Party. And there are too many New Yorkers that are just all into gimme, 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 without me doing a damn thing to earn it. And Mamdani is hitting that chord with them. He's ignoring some of the other things that might cost him some, but he's having to do a charade and play games with them. Marches in the parade, the Pride Parade, says we were going to make sure we could do everything here to make sure the gays and homosexuals and queers and everything else they might be called will be protected in New York City. And yet he's from Uganda, a country that just updated its constitutional law, decrying that homosexuality is basically subject to capital punishment, to beheading, death, or whatever they choose. That's his country. And he just went there for his big wedding. And he has talked in the past about defunding New York City police. Well, I think he's backed off of that some, only because he realizes that might not be the best winning proposition. But if I get into power, then I can make things happen like that. See, that's the thing with a lot of these guys. And this is true with politicians of every stripe. Promise, promise, promise. Get in there and then do what you intended to do anyway. Not honor the promise. In fact, go 180 degrees from it. Not every politician is built that way. They go in and they're going to do the best they can, but they've got to deal with those around them that have been sellouts before they even took the oath of office. If the New York electorate puts Mamdani in as mayor of New York City, wow. I mean, I can't think of anything that I could begin to compare. It would not be a three-ring circus. It wouldn't even be a train wreck. It wouldn't be like going to watch goat roping if you thought that was fun. It would just be a disaster happening in front of you, but with real people and their lives at stake. He can't deliver on anything he's promised. We're going to have government-owned and run grocery stores. The city of New York is so deep in debt they can barely run what they've got. And perfect quote of the similar activist coming out of Chicago the other day, the Chicago mayor saying, our city is financially broke. We don't have any more money. What we have to do is, here it comes, raise taxes. Oh, they will shout, we're going to make the wealthy pay more. But that means the other people will be paying as well. And if you're going to overtax the wealthy, the ones that actually create the jobs so some people can have a paycheck, they'll pick up and move. They can certainly easily move their residence, and they can decide to move their company. And why would they not? I mean, we had not too long ago Shark Tank analyst talking about how I would do a lot more building in California. But Kevin O'Leary said the regulations, the red tape, the cost, I couldn't make enough money on it to justify it. And that's the way it stands now. And they're looking to increase taxes in California. Every blue city and blue state and blue county, the best answer is raise taxes. Well, at some point, the folks don't have it. Or the folks say, I'm getting out of here. I already don't like that I have to pay a property tax on a car I own already, but I still have to pay a tax on it. And, of course, Trump's plan for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime work. Those things have a good sound to them, and they will work because you can make it up, partly by putting an end to the fraud and the theft that goes on. But I guess maybe we should allow some things to happen and see, just for the sake of it, to see what would happen. But not with my children, nor yours. Perfect example here. Those of you who live in Illinois, you probably already know this. If you don't, you need to know it. There's a new Illinois law. It got signed July 31st. And it made Illinois the first state in the nation to mandate mental health screenings for students in grades 3 through 12. If you were 3.5 years old, you could be crazy. Yeah, I know some 3.5-year-olds who are crazy. They're just kids. They're acting up. But maybe would this come under the qualification that if they're in that age bracket, 3 to 12, that if they decide they want to have transgender surgery, that would be a mental health mark against them? Let me give you more detail. This is annual mental health screenings for public school students. And already, yes, some parents, policy experts, and lawmakers are trying to say that's going to hurt our children. The law is set to take effect of the 2027 to 2028 school year. How old is your child, your grandchildren? What will they be come 27, 28? It would direct schools to provide self-conducted screenings each year using either digital or paper forms. It does say parents will have the ability to opt their children out. But I'll bet that message gets lost, don't you? Always send it out on a flyer and a mailer, and didn't you read it? What are they trying to do? Well, supporters say we need to have this to help schools identify early signs of depression, anxiety, or trauma before they develop into crisis. Critics argue the plan could create more problems than it solves, and I would agree. Now, part of what their reasoning is, we got a lot of school shooters. We will find them in this net from age 3 to 12. No, you wouldn't. And if a child is challenged in any way, then I want them to have help. I don't want the state, though, taking control and making that decision. One response says, I want to be on the record and crystal clear. This is a disastrous policy that will vastly do more harm than good. Watch as tens of thousands of Illinois kids get shoved into the mental health funnel and convinced they are sick. Many or most will be false positives. That mental health funnel, that's exactly where they're trying to go with this. We get all these kids of this age say, well, you're not exactly right, so we're going to put you over here in this group. And the kid's perfectly fine, maybe having a bad day. Have you not had a bad day? Maybe they're just giddy one day just because everything seems funny to them. They must have a mental problem. There's a partner at a venture capital firm raising concerns about this government overreach in what she called the mental health industrial complex. Yes, it exists. She says if a school nurse or a state-mandated health test tells you you're sick, you are going to believe them. You, the parent, your child's sick. Okay, what do? Well, we're going to give them some special training and education. Clearly an overreach. Now, Illinois insists these screenings will not be diagnostic. They're not designed to flag students who may benefit from further evaluation. Then what the hell use is it? What is it? Just because you can? It's a control issue. And get them early, beginning in the 3rd grade. Every year, students will be taking a mental health mental health screening, unless the parents make a point to opt them out. But they want you to know that this will be optimal for families, optional, I should say, and conducted privately. Well, the lead sponsor of the bill says we're just trying to normalize mental health care for children and teens. Well, then why don't you stop pushing transgender mutilation, calling it gender-affirming care? If we're going to do this, if you're going to do this type of testing, let's start at a higher age group. Actually, let's start with the governor. Let's get Pritzker in front of one of these, see how mentally unbalanced he might be and all of his followers around him. Then I might have an interest in your little test. Beyond that, stupid. You look at what Trump has done in the first 200 days he's been in office. Biden did a lot in the first 200, but nothing good for America. Trump, another story. White House spokesman Stephen Miller.
The economy was on its deathbed when President Trump came into the Oval Office. Joe Biden and the Democrats and whoever was running the White House, be it the auto pen or anyone else, had suffocated the life out of the American economy. The worst inflation we've ever seen, soaring energy prices, no investment, no innovation, losing out to the world, and the drastic overregulation of every segment and facet of the American economy. President Trump came in. Now we have the largest tax cut and reform in American history. We have the most pro-energy agenda in American history. Lee Zeldin, the head of the EPA, just did the largest energy deregulation action in American history. You mentioned the investments. I had the honor and privilege of watching the president negotiate with the EU and Korea and Japan the largest investments in American history we've ever seen. This is the golden age of the American economy.
Yeah, it is. And it's having ripple effect around the world for other countries as well. And it's not just our country that has a lot of messed up people, that's for sure. In France, there was a Moroccan migrant that had a residency permit so he could be in France. And what he decided to do, he needed to light a cigarette. They have an eternal flame at the tomb of their unknown soldier. And he decided to take his cigarette, lean into the eternal flame to light his cigarette. That's the wake of World War I, that 1920 memorial. He is now being bounced from France. Good. Just don't let him come here. So what did you learn new this hour? Class is out until Monday, but remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.